Hey y'all, Chris Cookin' Nashville here with my lovely wife Ash Taylor. It is health vlog time, and it's 2 weeks on Carnivore for this lovely lady over here, so we're going to talk to her about it and see what she thinks. Alright y'all, 2 weeks on Carnivore for Miss Ash over here. As far as my health, I'm feeling really good. I've just been feeling inflammation come off my body, especially because I got tighter with not having the few keto things from time to time that I was having, because she's on Carnivore now, so there's no keto stuff around, and that seems to be doing good. So here within a week, or maybe at the end of the month, when she weighs in at the end of the month, maybe I'll weigh in at the end of the month as well, and just kind of see what a month of it did for me. But either way, I'm doing good. So this isn't really about me, though. It's all about Miss Ash. So I'm going to ask for her to just kind of go through a whole list of whatever it is that she has to talk about. She's got her notes here, and she has plenty of items to discuss. And I know that this week has been a little different for her experience with this than last week was. So I'm just going to turn it over to her and let her kind of tell us about what she's been eating, how she's feeling, what she's experiencing, and what goes on week 2 on Carnivore.
For starters, you said it's not about you, but this is your YouTube channel.
It's our YouTube channel.
It's your YouTube channel.
No, you go to the comments section and all of these people are telling you how great you are and how much they appreciate you.
My world revolves around you. It can be about you.
Yeah.
We care about your health as much as mine. So week 2 on Carnivore, I have a lot of thoughts. If you watched the first health vlog, we kind of talked about how it seems like the first week, last week, I was just going to the bathroom a bunch and kind of broke out in pimples, and overall was feeling pretty good, but it was just kind of like, I could tell I was detoxing, if you will, just kind of running stuff off and doing our thing. And then I lost 4 pounds last week. So this week, I found it very interesting, I guess is a good way to put it. This second week on Carnivore, I will say, was very telling in many, many, many ways. I still had a lot of bathroom issues, way more than last week. I probably could have started writing Chris's cookbook for him, like with all the time that I have spent in the bathroom. It has literally been insane. I've also broken out in more pimples. I've also had some things like some joint pain and kind of muscle pain. Very interesting too, and very random. Not even like one spot that just continually hurts, but it's like for one day, like my big toe hurt, and then whatever this muscle is up here, like that was kind of sore and achy. But we were talking about it, and I guess that is also potentially a sign of detoxing.
It's something that I go through. So when I first did Carnivore, I would oxalate dump, and my body would go whoosh, and all this stuff would come off. And I actually have an old health vlog where I talk about this, where I get these like random pains and random things going on in my body suddenly. And I have, my theory about it is that my fat cells were hanging on to toxins and oxalates and other things. And then as it breaks it all down, well, all that stuff has to go somewhere for your body to filter it out. And your body can only filter it so fast. So until it filters it and it deals with it, you experience things like that. So I had the exact same experience when I first did Carnivore, where I had like random joint pain, and it wouldn't last for like more than a day or two, but it would just be a random joint pain that it's like, well, what is that hurting for? I didn't do anything to that. Or then I'd have weird muscle pain in just weird little spots, and kind of some random stuff. I had skin issues, pimples, all that kind of stuff. I'm having a little bit of that now, even just coming back off some of the keto items that I had. And I experienced all of that exactly the same way as you, so I recognize all those symptoms. And I'm just not a doctor here, neither of us are, but I am assuming from the things that I've read that those are all symptoms as a result of your detoxing, and you're dumping oxalates, and they're just banging around in your body until they can get out.
Well, and that's kind of the crazy thing. Week 1, I had like some of this stuff. I almost kind of feel like essentially what has happened is, after doing it for a little bit more time, it was almost like going into week 2, my body almost understood like, oh, this is what we're doing now. And when it got that this is what it was supposed to be doing, and like this is how we're eating, and this is whatever, I mean, it was like, let's go. So I'm going to call this the terrible twos. But the funny thing is, like, this week I think has been harder because of clearly just my body dumping all kinds of stuff, which we'll, go back to in a second. But I'm also still looking at this from the perspective of, if my body is still dumping all this stuff, and if it's actually, getting worse before it gets better, clearly, that's great. Yeah. I mean, this is stuff that has been stored up in my body that just apparently just really needed to happen. Mm-hmm. I've also, I'm a girl from California. I've done many a cleanse in my time. I mean, it's true. I've done everything from juice cleanses and all this stuff just throughout my life before
we did a juice cleanse right before we went keto the first time because we didn't know the difference. We didn't know any better.
Yeah, I mean, we did that, but I'm even talking
further back.
High school, junior high, college, my own adult life. It's I would spend a bunch of money and do cleanses to try to be healthy. And I think after week 2 on carnivore, I'm just man, this is the cheapest and greatest cleanse I've ever had. It really is, though. It genuinely is. But yeah, so with all that being said, I have weighed a couple of times throughout the week because I could really start to tell this week with my body just dumping so much. I could tell my wedding ring literally almost fell off my finger. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was oh, wow. I could tell I wore a pair of pants that I haven't worn in a long time and they fit perfect. Mm-hmm. They used to be pretty tight. So I was noticing it's I can tell that I definitely have lost weight or seem to be at least losing water. I have lost another 4 pounds this week. So that means in the past 2 weeks of being on carnivore, I have lost a total of 8 pounds.
And that's after there's a little bit of weight gain that we talked about from last week. But prior to even that weight gain, how long had you stalled on keto?
Oh, 8 months.
Right.
I had gained a little bit of weight because of medication and being sick and all that. So I mean, I'm basically back to where I was at my lowest on keto right now because I gained and then I came back down. I feel 8 pounds in 2 weeks is pretty great.
The only time that you've ever lost weight that fast related to any of this was when the very first time we did keto, when we first went keto, and we both lost that big initial chunk that neither of us ever gained back.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, we were losing 8 to 10 pounds a week, and in every week it felt like.
Yeah.
That's the only time that's ever happened.
And clearly the point of us doing this whole health vlog together for this month, as I try carnivore for the very first time, is clearly to help educate people and just kind of share our real experiences and whatnot. So, from me and my body and my standpoint, I'm super happy to lose 8 pounds in 2 weeks. I think that's great. Like you said, it's the most weight I've lost in a long time.
It doesn't matter whether it's fat cells, water.
It doesn't matter.
It literally doesn't matter. Whatever it is your body wants to get rid of that is weight like that, let it go.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, I kind of am pointing out, we're going to get into why I'm calling this though week 2, the terrible 2 week, because I feel a lot has happened and it has not all been the most pleasant. Yeah. But I think the fact that my body is reacting in that way and just shedding in every way possible is such a great thing. And I think that for me, I had told Chris when all this started happening, I'm I feel miserable in some ways, but I yet feel great. I've noticed a big boost in just my mental stability. I feel very calm. I feel very clear-minded, very clear-headed. I do have a lot of energy. Even being sleep deprived or having different things happen throughout the week, going through some of the symptoms of just my body getting rid of all this stuff, I still feel really, really great. So, I mean, I'm feeling really good. I think being down another 4 pounds is awesome. As far as food, we were actually talking about this week, I'm actually going to take pictures or a short little video clip of everything that I eat basically through this whole week.
Right.
Because we know people were talking about meal plans and we really don't have a meal plan.
We can show you pictures and video though.
Yeah, but I think, it's nothing crazy. I mean, we literally are going to have steaks and burger patties and bacon and chicken and, just kind of that stuff.
And we're doing one recipe.
Yep, one recipe. And, the other thing too is Chris is not forcing me to do carnivore by any way, shape, or form. So I have gladly signed up to do this with the goal of just coming in open-minded and just kind of being cool, so what happens to my body when we eat this way for a period of time?
There were some people that just couldn't imagine that you would want to do carnivore and that sort of insinuated that I was forcing you to do this and that I was going to, expect you to say something on camera that's not true because I'm Chris Cooking Nashville. You can't possibly not love carnivore.
Right. Well, and that's, that's the thing I've talked about. I've done other diets and cleanses and, all this many times before in the past. I'll let you tell the story of when we did the juice fast together before we knew what keto or carnivore was. Yeah. And you tell them about my avocado, babe. Tell the story.
When we were first starting, we were going to look at keto, but we wanted to try this juice fast first. I didn't know anything about keto or carnivore or any of this at the time other than just that it existed, and my parents had told me about it, and I was starting to watch some Dr. Berry videos. I knew nothing about any of this. And she didn't know anything about any of this either. And so we thought, okay, well, we'll do this juice fast. It's like a 28-day juice fast thing. It's all raw, juices that are fresh pressed with, the produce through a juicer, and you drink this, and that's what you have. And that's it for 28 days. So we started doing that, and it was week 3. Mm-hmm. She made it 3 weeks into it. And I wasn't forcing her to do that either. She wanted to do something. We both knew we needed to get our health under control. And I'd actually done this before. I'd done it successfully twice before. Mm-hmm. And so we started doing this, and about 3 weeks in, I came home from work, and she was just in tears about how hungry she was, and how it's like, in some ways I feel really good, but then like my stomach hurts and I have no energy and all these different kinds of things. She was really struggling. And I said, okay, it's time to eat something. And she goes, no, I don't want you to like not be able to do this because of me. And I feel like I'm failing you and all this kind of, like, she was all worried about it. And of course, with that much sugar in your system, because it was all fruit and vegetable juices we were drinking, I'm sure your hormones were up and down and all over the place. Yeah, Mine probably were too. So, that makes things seem so much more, doom and gloom. And so she was very worried about how I was going to feel about us eating food. And I remember I looked at her and I said, I don't care about the juice fast. The juice fast has nothing to do with anything. We're doing this to try to get healthy. And if you're miserable, then obviously this doesn't work, and we need to move on to the next thing. And so I was like, we were talking about, we were going to do this and then go keto. I was like, let's just go keto now. And she said, are you sure? And like, she really didn't want to, feel like it was her fault somehow. And I was like, there's no fault here. This is something that if we can't figure this out together, and if we can't support each other in feeling good and what works best for our body, regardless of what that is, then we're missing the whole point. And so I said, we're going to eat something. And I went out and I got avocados, because avocados were being blended in with some of those juices. It was like the fat source that you were getting on the occasional smoothie on that juice fast. And I went out and got avocados. I cut them in half and put some salt and pepper on them. And we sat there with spoons and ate avocados. And literally, she took a bite of an avocado and she started to cry.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's never really been a huge avocado fan in the past. She would eat it. She preferred maybe guacamole and chips, but even that she wasn't really into. Ever since she ate that first avocado after we did the juice fast, she loves avocados now. And they don't necessarily seem to cause her any issues, but obviously that's kind of the whole point of this carnivore thing is, does stuff like that cause issues that maybe we don't realize? But yeah, we did that, and then the very next day we had like this, I made these huge salads with lettuce that I had from getting stuff for the juice fast, and I made a ranch dressing. So we had like a keto dressing. And I went to the store and I got salmon fillets, and we put salmon over top of these salads. We had these salmon salads. They were good too. And so we just went keto. It was the first time we went keto, and we've been kind of doing this, trying to figure this out ever since. And it was really important, though, that she understood in that moment and now that if something does not work for you, it does not matter if it works great for me. If I need to continue what I'm doing and you need to do something else, that's totally fine. We figure out how to make that work. If we can both do the same thing, like, I'm not stuck in my ways and stuck in a rut here. Like if keto worked better for me than carnivore, I'd go back to doing keto.
Right.
But it just doesn't for me. And so this is about finding out, what does it do for you?
Yeah. Well, and that's why I decided to clearly do it. You're not forcing me to do it. I wanted to do it. I think this is a seeing like the results and everything. It's like, for me, I'm just kind of walking in with an open mind, not really sure what to expect. And then we're just kind of sharing it so that way you guys can make your own decisions on if you would like to do it or not, or what you think may work for you. Yeah, you're not like locking me in a closet and only feeding me steak. Like
Dr. Berry does talk about locking people in his barn and just feeding them lettuce only, and that if you calorie restrict someone that much, that sure, they will lose weight, and as soon as you let them out, they're going to go hog wild and eat anything they can get their hands on, which is why calorie counting does not work as a weight loss tool that way. But I'm not locking you in the barn and
No.
feeding you steak and eggs and telling you have to do this, and I'm Chris Cooking Nashville, so you better do it. Or
Yeah, there's none of that.
also, if any of you know anything about my wife, if I ever treated her that way and tried to make her do anything, she would kick my butt. She comes from Bakersfield. She would stab me in my sleep if I ever got mouthy with her. I have a great deal of love and respect for my wife, and I would never treat her that way. But if I did, she wouldn't let it go.
Well, I think that's just the thing about like relationships and especially marriage and stuff. It's like, for Chris, Carnivore has worked so well, and clearly it's like you are Chris Cooking Nashville, and you have your low carb recipes that you create and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I've seen the benefits of being keto for many years, and really seen the great things Carnivore has done for you. But it's like there was a point where like when Chris like did Carnivore, and it's like you got to support each other.
Yeah.
If it works well for you, great. If it doesn't work for me, whatever. So we're just purely experimenting. With that being said, though, I did have some thoughts and some more things to share about what has happened in the past week that I think if you are thinking like, man, I think I want to like, become carnivore. These are just my honest, real thoughts where I was like, I wish someone maybe would have told me this, because I think it's just something to, be aware of and just kind of have all the information. And maybe your body will or won't do this. We're not doctors. And, I think it honestly would be cool to kind of consult your doctor before doing it and during doing it.
Yeah.
But,
if you have a doctor that's willing to have an open mind and work with you on these kinds of things, work with them.
Work with them. Week 2 for me, we knew it was going to be super telling because, like I said, my body just had more time, I think, to kind of understand what it is we're doing.
It always seems to take a couple of weeks before you really start to see what's happening. It did for me too.
Yeah, it's crazy how different though week 1 and week 2 are to me. This past week, I've had everything from some headaches. I found myself sweating. I'm not a big sweater, and it was kind of like not warm out, but it's like I could tell I was kind of getting hot easily, and I was sweating. Pimples, blackheads popping up all over the place. I was in the bathroom all the freaking time, like way more than we want. We have to talk about poop in a health vlog. It's not a health vlog unless we talk about poop.
That's right.
But no, I mean, like I could just tell my body was just dumping stuff. For the ladies too, just to be again totally honest, I found it really interesting towards the beginning of week 2 on Carnivore. We had talked about in the last health vlog how I was like on medication and got sick, and so my cycle has kind of just been thrown off by all this and a little bit like irregular, and it's kind of then when I would get it would be very painful, and so clearly
this is something you really struggled with before keto as well.
Yes, I used
really
to,
bad.
I used to struggle with this hardcore before keto, and when I was on keto and when I was doing all that, it really helped. And then this medication that I started taking a couple months ago, I feel like it kind of just threw me for a loop. Like at the beginning of week 2, though, of being on Carnivore, as my body is just clearly getting rid of all these toxins and all this stuff, and I could, tell it's like I'm just running stuff off. I found it really interesting that I actually started, bleeding basically.
Yeah.
And it's like having my cycle again. And I was like, at first I was mad. Okay, because the ladies know.
It's not on schedule.
Yeah, I'm bleeding. It's not on schedule, and it's like really like you don't want to deal with that more than you have to. I know the ladies know what I'm talking about. It's like I don't want to deal with this right now. Like this is super inconvenient. But then I thought about it like and just kind of accepted it and whatnot. And over a couple days after that starting up, and I mean it was continuous, and it sucks. But I'm also like, man, I can tell like in my mood and just in my mental state that my hormones have massively balanced out. And clearly it's like, I think my body just kind of needed to also get that in check. And so to me, it's like, hopefully that's not TMI for people. But again, we're just trying to be open and honest.
Yeah.
I don't know if that will happen to you, if you're a woman and you're thinking about going to Carnivore, but
the exact same thing happened when it was keto, when we did keto the first time, and she was really struggling with this. Again, not on schedule.
Nope.
Not when it was supposed to be, and it was like super frustrating, but it balanced out. But I also think what I've really noticed just from my outside perspective and is like, guys, be very careful about saying things like this. This is not the time for you to be offering opinions. So I'm not offering opinions. This is just an observation with no opinion attached. It seems just from an outside perspective that more so than when this happened when we did keto the first time, in that first time that you had everything sort of sort itself out with all of that, it seems like this time it is much quicker for the hormone element of this, for you to just feel super level and balanced out, that took like a month or two on keto for that to happen. And this time she was like, she literally texted me at work and she's like, do you want to know what happened to me today? And within a couple of days, she was like, I think this is a really good thing.
Yeah.
Totally leveled out. And I was like, now you seem like your hormones are back to... My wife is a very level-headed lady, and she, even when her hormones are up and down, she's still very just kind of middle of the road,
chill.
stable.
Yeah.
But I know her well enough to know I can tell the difference when she's feeling it and when she's not. And she just seems really good.
Yeah. I think, like you can just tell, like, hormonally, like, I'm clearly just in a very, like, level place. A great example is, we have Mel, our golden retriever. I remember I was sitting in our living room and I had like a can of like, water or something up on our coffee table. And Mel came by, her big old tail was just wagging. She's a very happy dog.
The wag of doom.
Yeah, the wag of doom. But she's always just super happy, and she's such a sweet dog and does not realize that she's 70 pounds. She thinks she's 5. But I had just like finished cleaning the house and she like knocked over, this glass of water. And before like that would happen, and it's like, I honestly wouldn't even be upset. I'd be like, all right, let's, grab a mop. I realized that I didn't even react to it. I literally just got up. Like, I was so calm when this happened. I literally went over. I made sure the dog was all right. I went and got the mop. I didn't even like react to it. I didn't even think. It was just like, okay, clean it up. Like, very calm, just very mellow. I'm not upset. I'm not, like, nothing, just calm.
Yeah.
So people cut me off in traffic. I don't yell. Very calm. Very calm.
She doesn't yell at me when I get home from work every day anymore. I'm kidding.
Stop.
I'm kidding.
No, that's after the health log, honey. That's
right.
That's week 3.
That's right.
Week 3. But I think like all of that is very just interesting to know. So if you are thinking about, whether you're keto or ketovore and you're thinking like, man, what the deal is. I told Chris, for me, I think this to me is actually just a great example though of as inconvenient as all this is. It's like, if my body is really dumping all this stuff, I guess it needed to happen. And I think even if I was keto for so many years, deciding to do carnivore, even for 30 days, like we're doing here in the month of April, it's like, wow, well, look at what a big difference this is already making. Yeah. And look at how much my body is flushing that it needed to. So I think this is actually a really good thing. And as inconvenient as all of these symptoms and side effects are of just going through this and starting, to clean up your diet and all that stuff, it's not fun, but I already feel like I've benefited in so many different ways. Yeah. And, I just think that you guys kind of need to understand that if you're thinking about doing it, I think it definitely does get worse before it gets better, which is why I think you need to, consult with your physician. We're not doctors, but very similar things happened to me when we switched over to keto. A couple years ago.
That's why it doesn't concern us that it's happening. It's like, we've already been through this, just maybe not quite on this level.
And that's the thing. I may be, having my cycle and joint pain and like going to the bathroom a bunch and all this stuff, but it's like, pimples and all that. It's not fun, but I've been here before and it is more extreme, but it's just kind of amazing to me. Another thing that I find super interesting too, which doesn't concern me, but it kind of shows, I think, how much stuff my body needed to shed and get rid of. And by going carnivore, I think it's given me the opportunity to get my body what it needed to like be like, great, let's go. And now that I've given my body what it needed, it's like, we're really going to get you cleaned up. Like, we got this, I remember, I guess it was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. We used to live in a house here in Nashville, and in our old house, we had poison ivy really bad in the backyard. And I had gotten it really bad, pulling weeds and doing some stuff back there one day. And it's just the weirdest thing. But one thing I've noticed this second week is we've talked about pimples and blackheads, but I am literally breaking out in these patches and spots of poison ivy.
Just little ones.
Just little ones. It's kind of like on my forearm or my thumb. Last night it broke out all over my left ankle. And what's crazy we were talking about is I have not been exposed to poison ivy. Like, there is no way at least since we moved out of that house. You know, I mean, I don't garden here at our home now. I mean, it's been raining for like 3 weeks, you know, here in Nashville. I have very rarely even been outside because of the weather and stuff. But it's like, how am I all of a sudden popping up with poison ivy spots all over just here and there? And you were saying that I guess you had heard some doctors talk about.
Yeah, I've heard doctors talk about how poison ivy and the toxins that create that reaction can actually get stored in fat cells or various cells in your body. And in fact, my mom had poison ivy very, very badly. She's highly allergic to it, very badly when I was a little kid. And for years, and I think even sometimes occasionally to this day, if she gets very, very sweaty, there are still certain spots that will randomly break out in poison ivy. And her doctor said, yeah, sometimes that can happen. You get those toxins in your cells. Your body just can't deal with all of them. It stores them. And then if you break those cells down, like you're sweating or you're doing whatever, those toxins can come out. And then you react to it as if you were just exposed to poison ivy because it was inside your body. And I don't know anything about any of that as far as biology. I'm not a doctor that has the training to know how that would work, but that's something that I have been told and heard from doctors, and my mom was told too. So it seems like maybe that's what you're going through.
Right. Well, and again, we we just kind of want to like share like all the positives of like losing 4 pounds and having more energy and a great mental state and like all of that. I also just think if you are going to do this though, you know, maybe just realize you may be going to the bathroom a bunch, breaking out in poison ivy, maybe like, you know, I think sometimes with, I hate using the word diet because I don't think this is a diet. I think this is a lifestyle. It's a low carb lifestyle. But I think sometimes it's like, you know, we're not trying to sell you a miracle pill. Right. And I think to sit here and say like, oh, this past week has been really easy. Well, that would be lying. Yeah. But I think you just need to know that these are some things that may or may not happen if you decide to do it. So just be ready and just understand though, you know, if you start carnivore and you start feeling this way, it's probably natural. But if you're concerned, go to your doctor, check it out. But I would hate for someone, I told Chris, I'm like, I really don't want to overshare clearly, but it's like, I do think people need to know, like, this is what I'm experiencing. And, you know, it's not fun or pleasant, or it's kind of weird to talk about in some ways, but I would hate for me just to be like, yeah, I lost, you know, 8 pounds in 2 weeks and I feel great and blah, 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 blah.
It was just easy and beautiful.
It was so wonderful. Yeah. but then like, you know, they go to start carnivore and then like when their cycle starts up when it's not supposed to, or you're breaking out in pimples and zits and you're in the bathroom every 5 minutes being like, oh my gosh.
Start to panic.
Yeah, well, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Like, what is happening? And you don't understand. And honestly, I've been on so many diets and stuff before, like trying to figure out a balance and weight before all this.
Yeah.
No other diet ever did that to me. Even when I like went to keto, I mean, it was like these symptoms were all there, but they were a lot more mild.
They were mild and they were slower for both of us.
Yeah. This I feel like is like 0 to 60.
Yeah.
And so
it's very accelerated.
It's very accelerated. And I'm just like holding on.
How did I describe it to you and your brother?
Oh, Chris told me it was a family dinner.
It was a family dinner.
So you got to picture that. We're all sitting around our dining room table having a lovely time, family dinner. And someone was asking Chris a question about carnivore and like what to expect your first week or two. And his exact words were, with the most serious, I mean, dead serious face, he said, get ready for the most amazing diarrhea you'll ever have. And that has lived on in our family as an inside joke for like years. But you're not wrong.
I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong.
Now she knows I'm not wrong.
I have a whole new appreciation. Yeah. It's not a miracle cure-all, but it's like I am noticing all of these improvements in all these different areas and I'm losing weight, but I can tell it's like, man, my body is just dumping and that's not comfortable. Yeah. But I think people just need to be aware of all that.
Just be aware if you have black tar sludge. Don't panic because you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Now, if it continues for an extended period of time, Dr. Berry has some info on this about how long it can take your intestines and your gut bacteria to adjust and, you know, get used to this kind of stuff and for it to go away. If it continues longer than that, then you need to go see a doctor and make sure that there's not something else going on.
Right.
But if these symptoms pop up and you do carnivore for the first time, like, don't panic. It happens. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it does happen to quite a few people.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah. Week 2 was definitely harder than week 1 because it was like all of those first week symptoms and more. I also even noticed at times I would get a little bit nauseous, very slightly, and then it would go away. And I would notice when I would eat fat, it seemed to really help for whatever reason. I'm not a doctor again. I just noticed that like I was kind of like, oh, my stomach feels a little weird. And like you were talking about gut bacteria and all that settling out.
Right.
I'd have some fat, butter, or something like that, and felt a lot better.
Right.
Also, I know that I guess like butter and fat is supposed to help with your hormones. So that could be, you know, again, my body is going to work different as a woman compared to a man's. It's just
Dr. Brigh has some really good info. If you don't know who she is, find her here on YouTube. Dr. Brigh has really good info for women and kind of women's health things related to like the high fat, like carnivore type stuff, like butter. Bella, the steak and butter gal, she also is really a good resource for women's health and these kinds of things related to carnivore. And so that's the thing. All the stuff that she's going through, I'm just like, hey, here's all these doctors and ladies that are, you know, talking about all of this, and they've said this is exactly what this is. And then she goes through it and she's like, yeah, you're right. This is exactly what I'm going through.
Right. Well, and they're great resources, especially like Dr. Brigh and, you know, Steak and Butter Gal or whatever, because that's the thing though. I think people need to know this, especially women. It's like, you need to understand like what's kind of happening and going on, and just know that this is going to be part of it. And hopefully that won't deter you though from, you know, either starting it and sticking to it, or, you know, just thinking about it. Because I do think no matter where you're at in your health journey, taking a step, you know, forward, whether that be carnivore with like, you know, coffee and seasonings like we're doing, or whether it's meat, salt, water, whatever that next step is, just know that, hey, you may experience some of these things, and that's actually a good sign though. So it's a little uncomfortable, but it always gets worse before it gets better. I felt like maybe the first day or two of this second week, I did have some cravings. I don't really have cravings though anymore. So I feel like that's pretty well leveled out. I'm also starting to notice that I seem to be eating a little bit less, because I just kind of eat when I'm hungry, and if I'm not hungry, then I don't eat. But yeah, I'm kind of just noticing I'm eating less. I did have though kind of a thought, like we were talking about, like after doing this for 2 weeks, like if you could go back and do anything differently, what would it be? And I think like for me, I'm clearly fine and doing it, but I kind of went from basically like keto, and then we had like, it was Easter, right before, because I started this on April 1st. And so it was like, you know, we went and had an Easter celebration at my brother's house, and I had a couple things that were standard American diet. And then it was like the next day I went into carnivore, and then I've stuck with it now for 2 weeks, and all this great stuff's happening, and it's like cool. I think for some people, if you're worried though about the strictness of it, I guess, you know, and just not having things like salad and broccoli and, you know, stuff where it's like we talked about in the first health vlog. It's weird for me to think that having a salad or having broccoli would ever be considered a cheat meal. But now it is. And so having that mindset is very weird. And it's something that I really have had to adjust to over the past 2 weeks. And now I'm kind of getting it. But I'm almost wondering, you know, if you're concerned about that, there's nothing wrong with going cold turkey and just like jumping straight in. If you think that would probably be better for you and you're cool with that, great. If you are concerned though, I actually think warming yourself up to the plunge is actually a great idea. So I told Chris, I think if I were to do like, you know, maybe like a month of keto, like clean keto.
Like strict keto.
Yeah. Do like a month of strict keto.
No keto products, no sweeteners, none of the junk. Like,
I'm talking
whole food keto.
Yes. Do that for a month. Then do ketovore.
Really reduce those carbs down.
Yeah. You know, but you could still have like, you know, I talked about in the first health vlog how I really wanted to eat the pickles.
Right.
On like our pound of chicken.
You could have
like,
the pickles.
I could have the pickles.
Cook some onions and garlic over top of your meat. You could have a little tiny little bit of lettuce or something on a taco that was made with like my carnivore tortillas or something.
Right. But like do ketovore and then go down to carnivore. But kind of like warm yourself up. And that way you're kind of, it's like, okay, cool. We're here for a month with the clean keto, like whole food keto, and then it's like, then we do, you know, ketovore. So you're taking away a couple more things, but you're still doing all right. You can still have some stuff, and then go to carnivore where you're just, you know, I think that would be something mentally. If I were to go back, I probably would have maybe done that. Luckily, I feel like I have pretty good willpower, and clearly I'm 2 weeks in and doing all right. But just for people that maybe are not too sure about it.
And I think in my experience too, it's always the first 2 weeks are the hardest to get through.
Yeah.
So.
But that was kind of the only thing I was thinking might be like useful though. Like if someone is thinking about it, but they're concerned about that. I think it's like almost like do your warm-ups before you go run a marathon. Don't just, walk out there cold turkey and dive in.
Yeah.
You'll hurt yourself,
Yeah.
like set yourself up to succeed.
Absolutely. I also have to say too, I gotta give Ash props. She has a tendency to enjoy snacking a lot, specifically at night before bed. I don't think that it's necessarily a good or a bad thing. I think it really depends on how does that work with your body. But she has really tried to I'm not gonna go snack and eat a whole bunch of cheese and things that I don't need that I'm not really hungry for. And it seems like doing carnivore and having all of the meat that she's having and all the protein and the fat, she doesn't really seem like she's even craving that stuff or struggling with that. And I mean, she's not snacking at night before we go to bed. So,
well, I think at this point I'm just so full
right,
that it honestly, it's just like, I was like, I know I'm not, I think you said there was a word for it. Like when you feel like basically it's like you want to have meat. Or like meat, you think you're hungry.
Yeah, meat aversion.
Right. So it's like you think that you're hungry, but then it's like, hey, how about some beef patties and eggs? And you're like, no, that doesn't sound good.
I want something more like blah. And it's like, well, is that actually hunger?
Right.
Or are you just bored and you want to taste something different? Because that's a really important thing to know the difference between.
Well, and I think too, it goes back to bad habits and stuff. Because I've always been a big snacker at night. But I was really close to my grandparents growing up, and they were very routine in their life, which there's nothing wrong with. But it's like dinner was always at 5 o'clock every single night.
Right.
Always. And so it's like we sit down and we have dinner. And then at 8 o'clock, the moment that, clock would strike 8, it was snack time. And we would have things like ice cream and candy bars and, whatever. But it's like that's how I grew up. It's like, well, okay, it's 8 o'clock, you have a snack. At 5 o'clock, we have dinner. Everything is planned. I think that's just a habit that I just kind of have had for 30 years. And now, and on keto, I honestly think it's pretty easy to still do that though. Because I can eat a steak and some broccoli, and eat a bunch of food. And then it's like, I'll have some pickles or some cheese or I mean, it's very easy.
You also don't realize when you're eating things like broccoli and salads and veggies and all these different kinds of things, how you may be putting a lot of stuff in your stomach, but as soon as that moves out, that's not fat and protein that cause your satiation hormones to kick in the same way.
Right.
And then suddenly it's like, oh, well, now I could have a little of this and a little of that and a little of something else. Whereas when you eat all of the meat and the fat and you put all of that in your stomach, ain't going anywhere. It moves out of your stomach, but you're not hungry when it does.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I think that's just a great point, though, and thank you for the compliment. But yeah,
of course.
I think that's just a thing, though. It's kind of like relearning bad habits, though. But because I am so full and so satiated, it's like I know I'm not hungry, and so kind of goes back to I'm really just trying to eat when I'm hungry, and so I really don't have meal times or anything. I eat when I'm hungry, and if I'm not hungry, then I don't eat.
Yep.
So my first week on carnivore, though, I did feel like I ate a lot more. This second week, I'm basically I get up in the morning and I'm just kind of today I was not hungry at all. I was like, nah. And it's 6 o'clock right now when we're filming this, 6:30?
Yeah, 6:30.
Something like that.
Yeah,
and I mean, Chris is going to make us a big salmon and we're going to eat salmon, and that's all I'm going to eat today.
Stuff ourselves full of fatty salmon with butter over top of it. And if we still want a little something else, we'll make some eggs, or I've got some leftover of the buffalo eggs that I did for the live stream, and it's fat and protein. Lots of those omegas. Yeah, omega
and I eat till I'm super comfortably stuffed, and then I'm like, cool. Really curious to see what kind of happens in week 3, and just very appreciative too. The last health vlog that we put out, we talked about a lot of stuff, and that was a very long video. And hopefully this one won't be as long. But
this one's pretty long, but it's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. We talk a bunch. But I just wanted to say too, thank you so much to everyone that was just super kind and encouraging and took the time to watch that video and comment and share your stories and encouragement. And that just meant a lot to Chris and I. Yeah. And we literally went back and read all the comments and tried to reply to everyone, and it was just wonderful. And we have such a great community here, and we are just super, super blessed. And if you guys do have questions though, for us on anything really, I mean, put them in the comments below.
We're here.
Again, though, this is just trying to be as honest and real and
Yeah.
kind of just showing you the good and the bad and the ugly and kind of just what to expect if you decide to sign up to do a carnivore diet.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate all of you guys because I love my wife more than anything, and I would bend over backwards or just flat out die for her if I had to. And to see that you guys care about her and that you support her and love her and take the time to encourage her just does me a lot of good as well, because I want to see really great things for her, and I can only do so much as one person sometimes, but it's really great to know that there's a whole community of people that love her, because I know that she deserves that. So I just appreciate that. So
you're very sweet. Yeah.
Any final thoughts on carnivore this week?
No, I'm ready to go eat that salmon though. I'm ready.
I'm hungry too.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
We're gonna go eat dinner. So thank you guys for watching. If you know someone who is considering trying the carnivore diet, if you yourself are considering trying the carnivore diet, just go back, listen to these health vlogs, share these health vlogs with people so that they can see what it's like for someone to do it the first time, and to just give some honest thoughts and opinions on what you may experience and things to watch out for, and just some tips and advice of how to maybe make it a little bit easier. So we've got a really busy week ahead. By the time you see this, we will be already working on editing a video for a brand spanking new recipe, which is going to be, I think, a game changer. So another one of those big game changer recipes I'm excited to share. So that's all we've got for you guys. Thank you for watching. This is Chris Cooking Nashville, my lovely wife, Miss Ash Taylor, who's killing it on carnivore here in week 2 and getting ready to go into week 3. Make sure you guys eat your meat, love your life. We'll see you right here in the kitchen for health vlogs and more recipes.
I talk a lot. I don't know if you know that.
Ow, that was my knee. That hurt. It really did.
I'm sorry. Honey, it's metal.
I know.
I'm sure it hurt.
Jammed it right next to my kneecap. Now my whole leg's like tingling.
Take a moment.
It was your fault because I was trying to get around you.
Well, that's because she's always in the way.